I've been waiting to see Scopper Gaban for a while, like maybe a decade. And why you ask is look at Luffy's crew. Look at this new Yonko crew and how badass his wings are. Zoro and Sanji, since the beginning of the story till now, like they've been very powerful and very epic and kind of like vice captains in a sense when Luffy's down in the count. So yeah, of course I want to see Roger's wings with already seeing Rayleigh, like we already seen Rayleigh do some amazing things, like the Kizaru fight in Sabaody. Kizaru was unstoppable during that arc. Man was literally made out of light, the fastest character. Rayleigh comes out of nowhere, stops him from killing Zoro, cuts him, and then makes him bleed, and then gets in a sword battle with his that's just insane at old age, how old Rayleigh was at the time. So you think I don't want to see his other wing? You think I don't want to see Roger's other wing? And then Rayleigh, of course, he does the whole Blackbeard conquers Aki coding moment. Blackbeard actually leaves and actually respects Rayleigh because of his reputation, even though Rayleigh did admit that Blackbeard probably would have won if they actually went down, because Blackbeard's a Yonko right now in his prime, so makes sense. And then of course Rayleigh in his young days when he had the anime moment of versus the Whitebeard Pirates and going up against Marco with one finger and insane Ryo haki he was using. So yeah, of course I want to see Scopper Gaban, and I can't wait for him to bring the hype as well. Plus Oda did reveal that this character named Colin or Colin, I'm gonna call him Colin because Colin sounds yeah, like an ancient weapon, but yeah, I'm gonna say Colin is a great, he said his father's a great pirate who of course had the respect of the Elbaf giants. Then there's the whole element of Scopper Gaban using an axe, and axes are a weapon that you do see in Elbaf giants and chopping trees, and there's the Adam tree, so it would make sense for that whole element of course Scopper Gaban being a Elbaf native. But this deep dive is more so on his power, and is not necessarily his power, his ability, and let me explain what I'm talking about. Now of course Oda has been sprinkling throughout the story hints of Scopper Gaban being a very relevant character, and it started off right after the time skip. Right after the time skip, he has Crocus meet with a character. Crocus is a Roger pirate that used to be a doctor, and I was doing it of course to also look for Brooks' crew for Laboon. Yeah, so Crocus actually went with Roger on his final voyage to Laugh and he was officially, Rayleigh said he was an official crew member. They looked at him as a brother. He knows the Void Sentry, he knows the Willie D, and this character met up with a guy with a Wano hat. This same Wano silhouette that we've been seeing with this silhouette that's just driving me crazy. And the character had the same hairstyle as Scopper Gaban. So now people might say that's cheeky, but the thing with Shiki is, why bring back Shiki? Like, I know Shiki's a very powerful character when it comes to the Edworth, Roger, and being part of the Rocks. Like, in chapter 1096, Shiki was legitimate, but why bring back Shiki when Shiki doesn't know any information that could be helpful for Luffy? The way that this character is meeting with Crocus, it means that he has to have some meaningful information for Luffy. Not just because he went to Laugh but more so other reasons I'm going to explain further in this video. And then of course, this is something that actually went straight past me, and then I recently seen it again. Shanks, when he's on Elbaf, initially, he said it was good to catch up with old friends, and I just thought he was talking about Dory and Broggy. That's the main thing I thought he was talking about, because it was our first time seeing Dory and Broggy in a minute. But I realized he's not talking about Dory and Broggy. He's not talking about Loki, because Loki doesn't like him. He's talking about a former Roger pirate, and he's not talking about Shiki. If he's talking about Shiki, like what, he beefed Shiki in that war, so why would he talk about Shiki? I think he's talking about Scopper Gaban, and it would make sense because Oda started building up this after the time skip, and then of course we all know pre-time skip at the end it was of course Rayleigh. So if we go through this whole pattern of this events, the beginning of the East Blue, it was Buggy. Then the beginning of the Grand Line, it was Crocus. And then halfway through the Grand Line is Rayleigh. Now we're 3/4 of the Grand Line. I think it's great if we bring up a character known as Scopper Gaban. And we even had right 2 arcs before that in Wano, Odin, and having Roger flashback through Odin, a former Roger pirate. I think Oda really wants us to sprinkle in these Roger pirates. They disbanded, but they still are here, and they still are carrying Roger's legacy somehow, and they're gonna help Luffy to achieve what Roger couldn't do. And honestly, you see it in Egghead Island, just the arc we just came off of. Like, Vegapunk's message is literally shit talking the Roger pirates. He's literally saying, why didn't you guys do anything? Why didn't you guys do anything? And the Roger pirates are drinking. We see Shanks drinking. We see Rayleigh literally drunk. And you think Scopper Gaban isn't hearing this Vegapunk message as well? And these Roger pirates know what they know, so they look at Vegapunk kind of like, we know why we didn't do it. You just don't know why we didn't do it. Because Vegapunk is using his mind to figure out these things. Like, he's using his intellect to figure out these things, where the Roger Pirates didn't have the intellect. They just seen it. If you just seen it, you don't need intellect. You just know what you know. So I honestly believe Scopper Gaban is going to allude to Vegapunk's message of Vegapunk challenging the fact that we have a Vegapunk clone too. There's gonna be some cool elements in this Elbaf arc I can't wait to see. And I have to mention it as well. Oda literally hypes up Elbaf with this character, I believe, is Scopper Gaban. The first thing he says is come Straw Hats. Like, he's wanting to meet Luffy. He's wanting to see the Straw Hat Pirates, these pirates that are inheriting the Roger Pirates' will. And then of course we see him wandering around Elbaf, and they're hyping up Elbaf with Louis Arnold. The last time we saw that was Louis Garden, this of course famous adventurer. So yeah, this guy is legit. Scopper Gaban, if he's getting more aura, in my opinion, than Rayleigh. Not just saying that because we already seen Rayleigh, but I'm saying that the way Oda introduced Rayleigh is way different than he introduced Scopper. Like, Rayleigh wasn't a silhouette and we were hyping it up. No, Scopper, he's been doing this. So I feel like Scopper has a more pivotal key to the story of Elbaf than Rayleigh did for Sabaody. Rayleigh had more key pivotal for the entire story in general, because when it comes to training Luffy during the time skip, like, no one can go against that. Rayleigh was super important. But I'm talking about the arc in and of itself. I think Scopper is gonna be a really big deal. So you see how I'm so convinced this character Scopper Gaban. If I'm wrong, this video's gonna look kind of foolish, but the patterns, the evidence is just there. So let's actually do a deep dive on Scopper Gaban and who he is as a character and what Oda's shown us so far. One thing for certain, Scopper Gaban was shown in the first 20 chapters, I think chapter 19 to be exactly, in Buggy's flashback. This means that Oda always had big things planned for this character, as he was one of 5 characters of the Roger Pirates actually shown that early. Of course, Roger, Rayleigh, Buggy, and Shanks, all 4 major characters in the story, and then Scopper Gaban, who we just haven't seen. But now Oda's making him a major character by silhouetting him and hyping up for so long, since like the cover story. So yeah, in this flashback, that means that he had big things planned for this character. We know Oda has had characters he hasn't had big things planned for that made the big characters, like Law, he just made a big character but he had nothing planned for. And then Useless Kid, he planned him but he really hasn't went to the extent. He's a big character, Useless Kid, but he hasn't gone to the full extent of what, like, why did you plan Useless Kid, which maybe we're going to see in Elbaf, but that's another story for another day. But I believe the fact that he was introduced before Sanji and Usopp, pivotal Straw Hat Pirates. Oda is cooking something with Scopper Gaban. And let's just talk about it. Scopper Gaban and Rayleigh wanted smoke with Kozuki Oden as soon as he was rushing in, and Roger had to stop them. That means that Oda's trying to present to us the perception's reality thing is real here. That Scopper Gaban is not your regular Roger Pirate. He's literally on the same level as Rayleigh in this moment. And even when they're starting the battle, Scopper Gaban and Rayleigh are leading the forces of the Roger Pirates because Roger's busy fighting Whitebeard. And then I also want to say this as well when it comes to Scopper Gaban. His name, Copper. It's gold, silver, copper. It's a whole play on words. So Oda definitely has bigger meanings in the fact that Oda actually made a whole thing for their names. And then finally, I gotta say this. He fought Oden in the anime. And people who are saying, oh, he fought Oden in the anime, what's the big deal? What's the big whoop? No, Oden is the same character that had a Kankusaki clash with Whitebeard. He fought a prime Whitebeard. Then Oden, of course, went to Roger and took a divine departure and got back up. The same divine departure that made Useless Kid and Killer, like, they were dead. And then finally, obviously they're not dead, but you know what I mean. And then finally, this is the same Kozuki Oden that got stronger after being with the Whitebeard Pirates and Roger Pirates, went to Laugh-Tale, came back and fought Kaido and almost won if there's no interruptions, and scarred him and took him down. When Zoro scarred him and on the rooftop, he couldn't even take him down. He just scarred him. Kozuki Oden scarred him and took him down. So even Zoro was questioning, like, how did even Oden even control and like all that haki pouring out? Oden is legit a powerful character, a very powerful character. He's in Kaido's top 5 for goodness sake, and Scopper Gaban was fighting him. I also like this element of when Roger was bowing down to Whitebeard, and a lot of people don't like to talk about this, but it's a big deal. Roger doing this was really throwing away his pride, and on honesty, it looked like Roger had no pride doing this. And who told him to stop? Who told him to relax? It was Scopper Gaban. He was irate. Roger, what are you doing? If it was Rayleigh, it would have been a big deal. So the same way for Scopper Gaban, it has to be a big deal because he's one of the top Roger Pirates. For him to say something, even Kozuki Oden was like, yo, relax. Like, he was kind of nervous, panicking. Yes, Scopper Gaban really is prideful. That's one thing we learned in this exchange. Now I can do a whole video on Roger and how he's not prideful, but it's gonna take me a while, so I gotta work on that. But still, we learned that Scopper Gaban is prideful in this exchange, in this moment. And I have to mention it. This is where Scopper Gaban really became the GOAT to me. It's during Egghead Island, during the God Valley flashback that Oda showed us. There was a lot of legendary characters here. Figureland Garling, the Rocks Pirates and Rocks Dizabek, Edward Newgate, Big Mom, Shiki, Kaido, and the rest of the crew that was incredibly powerful. But Roger, Rayleigh, and Scopper Gaban pulled up. Monkey D. Guard pulled up as well, and Bogart, but they pulled up, and Scopper told Roger, "You get no special treatment here." Pretty much telling him that I'm gonna fight the strongest guy I can, and I'm not gonna let you stop me, Roger, even though you're my captain. That just showed to me that Scopper Gaban looks at Roger as an equal that early on during God Valley than he did. Like that, the fact that he looked at Roger that like an equal at that time shows that Scopper Gaban is not your regular pirate. Roger really had a dog with him, and if you didn't believe it, like that flashback should have been case in point. Like, yeah, Scopper Gaban is legit. He's there for God Valley. He's there for the Ed War. He's there for all these amazing Roger pirate moments. Yeah, this guy's legit, and then when we see him, he's going to be incredibly powerful. He's going to be probably around the same level as Rayleigh, and we saw what Rayleigh is still able to do. So, and I love how during Chapter 0, one thing we learned about Scopper Gaban is, this is before even the Egghead Island and God Valley flashback, his relationship with Roger is very close. We always look at Rayleigh and Roger, but Scopper Gaban has a close relationship. When he tells Buggy, I've been with Roger for decades, and I still haven't been able to stop him from doing or fighting. So Garp, who also has a close relationship with Roger, said the same thing. When Scopper Gaban said that, it really showed that him and Roger's relationship is not your regular relationship. It's a very deep relationship. And when Scopper Gaban explains that during Elbaf, we're going to get some emotional stuff here, guys. Same way we got with Rayleigh, because the Roger Pirates are a main component to the One Piece story. So this is my final thought process on Scopper Gaban. Scopper Gaban knows the Void Sentry, he knows the Willa D, and he knows of Joy Boy's story. So to see Nika on Elbaf when Luffy approaches with Gear 5, with the Atom Tree there, and with Loki's legendary Devil Fruit, Scopper Gaban is going to be a part of a monumental moment in One Piece. It's going to make history. And he has a kid with a giant. Like, how did he have a kid with a giant? And you have to understand, Momonosuke lost Odin, and Colin will lose Scopper Gaban in this arc as well. The fact that Ripley kind of confirms that he's still around, he just don't want to marry her officially, because he's obviously going to be an old man while she's still young. He will die, and I feel like before he dies, he'll speak to Luffy about Roger, he'll speak to Luffy about Shanks, and probably compare it to this lookalike Shanks as well. And then of course he'll speak about Joy Boy. And before he does, I think he will of course reveal a special power. I think Scopper Gaban is unique to Rayleigh and Roger because he probably has a Devil Fruit ability. And it's going to be kind of like the opposite of the Raw Hat Pirates, where Luffy has the Devil Fruit ability and Zoro Sanji don't. I think the Roger Pirates is more so Rayleigh and Roger, the hockey specialist, and Scopper actually has a Devil Fruit ability. Maybe that's why he was able to go against Odin in the flashback. But yeah, I'm excited to see if maybe his Devil Fruit ability can do to some sort of expanding, make him larger. Like the fact that he had his dealings with Ripley. I don't want to get too detailed with it, but maybe he did have the rubber no mi that I theorized years ago. And of course, Luffy we thought the rubber no mi, but he actually has the Nika fruit. They definitely could share some secrets. But yeah, I think Ripley, believe it or not, yeah, it's going to be hype to see Scopper Gaban in the Elbaf arc. But debate in the comment section if you disagree for what I think.